it's definitely, yeah, it's daunting, but it's also one where it's like, it's a very concerted effort with Plunge that I was going to be on the forefront, that I was going to be kind of the founder that's out leading the conversation, doing that. So I'm having fun with it. It's a fun piece right now.
It is. I've loved getting to do that with all of our stuff. The newest thing that I haven't done well is I don't believe we've done a great job of mining the content that we film. What we're very good at is making new content.
Well, it's hard you have to have someone that has to go through and actually find the nuggets.
Yeah, which isn't either of what we're stoked on. We want to make shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's because there's like a different intent when you're going through a footage, only trying to dig for things that are gonna perform well on social media, that are gonna give you 1 million views. You know, you're always trying to make that 1 million view clip, but it's very different intention than if you're just trying to make a cool video. You know, so
yeah, but there is like, man, when you find those little nuggets that just come out of nowhere. And that's the piece that you don't even really think too much about, and you cut that piece up. Like I just had this piece for me that was like, shot it in 10 seconds. Ben spent probably 10 minutes on editing it, and it's been the best piece of content that I've put out by.
What was it?
It was a piece on cancer. It was like cold plunging for cancer. And it was like a new study that was out there. It was like a quick video I shot on my deck. It was like one, as opposed to sitting in a room or planning stuff out, like, okay, what's the strategy of this one, the direction, and then this one, it was like, in a moment, this is an incredible study. I'm going to talk about it, and it's just, for me, it's been a big piece. So I think there's something to that. Is like just what is in flow, what's like the piece that's like a concerted, like you can just get out really quickly.
Yeah, I think it's taken a long time for me to kind of get on board with as well, of like really listening to the data of social media instead of create just what I want to for me.
So you're in listening to the data, or
I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
Because historically I've just done what I want to do. I haven't like my own Instagram profile or any of those type of things, like looking at why there isn't the growth that I want. It's because it's completely inconsistent. And like the style of posting, what I do. I can look at other people's page that are growing and be like, what are they doing? I'm not. All their shit looks exactly like this. It's a very consistent message, the way it's told. It's people doing fake podcast posting with that titles and everything under it. Whereas mine has just been like, I feel like doing this right now. Here it is.
It's on brand for you.
It is.
It's your style.
It
you
would
do
be
a lot of different shit.
lot cooler to kind of see what focusing would do. I know what that does. It creates X.
Yeah.
And so what if we paid more attention? Could we be more intentional with it so that it's less chaotic work? I guess would be more the idea.
I get it. Before we get started, I was hoping you could share who you are.
Yeah. I'm Matt Vincent.
I've been thinking about who you are, and I'm just like, this guy does a lot of different shit, and I don't know how to label you, which I would say is a compliment.
I really lean into that. I like that aspect of trying to decipher what I am. Athlete. So here we'll go why I'm known.
Yep.
I'm a 2-time Highland Game world champion. I found a really weird sport and dove into it a lot, and had a background in throwing, and won a couple world championships, man. I got to travel around the world doing a silly thing that I loved.
How do you get into that?
So background past that was I was a shot put discus hammer thrower.
Got it.
And so through college at LSU, I was on a scholarship there, and I was very okay at it. Not going to anything at like a national level. Like, we're not going to the Olympics. That would have been a dream for sure. But it was not realistic. I don't have it. It's not a coaching issue. The machine is the problem. But then after that, I spent a couple years trying entrepreneurship after college, didn't train much anymore, got into bicycling and opened a bicycle shop, and then that closed. I tour managed for some bands. I've worked in strip clubs and bounced and DJ'd. I've done a variety of work. Decided entrepreneurship didn't work and moved into the petrochemical field with a regular job doing outside sales for about a decade.
Grinding.
And it was great. was fucking great. I learned a lot from it. And then started my apparel company while competing in 2014. Was like my 3rd or 4th year competing as a pro. I'd picked up my first world championship in 2012, picked up my second in 14, and then we started Hate Brand in October of 14.
Got it.
In March of 2017, I was fired from the real job, and they should have.
So you had a regular 9-to-5 job and was training for the Highland Games. So that's not like a full-time, like you had a job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a full career.
Got it. So it's almost like being
like I'm traveling 75,000 miles a year doing outside sales. I was flying a little over 30 times a year for work. And then I'm competing in the Highland Games. So like we compete 20 times a year.
Got it.
So that's 20 weekends.
So you're a pro athlete and a 9-to-5,
6-figure sales job.
Yep.
Traveling and seeing and schmoozing and doing all that. And so like I drove most places because I could find that like, if I book meetings in this area, there's a Highland Game not too far from it on Saturday.
Got it.
And then carried all my equipment in the truck. And so I could stop and throw in the back of parking lots and train and do it.
I just imagine you moving big boulders.
So that is Atlas stones. Atlas stones are more strongman.
Okay.
Highland Games is throwing. And so the 9 events you've got 2 stones you throw just like a shot put. You've got 2 weights you throw for distance, and they look like a block with a short chain and a handle. And so you throw it with one hand. It's a combination of discus hammer for anyone out there who can throw.
But it's its own thing.
Own weight. Yeah, it doesn't equal any normal fucking competition that you would do competing in the Olympics. There's 2 hammers you throw, and they're very different than the Olympic hammer, but some things carry over. There's a sheaf, so we throw like a 20-pound hay bale for height over a bar with a pitchfork. So like I have a pitch. That's what the pitchfork in my gym is.
I haven't seen that.
It's on the wall in my gym. Yeah, I need to hang it in here. Yeah, I have a pitchfork that I traveled the world with for 5 or 6 years. Super fun to go through the airport.
Did you ever get pulled over in the car?
Well, it's never there. Like I always get, when you go to check it, they're like, is this a blah? Whatever they say it is, my answer is yes, because that ends the conversation. No one ever guesses pitchfork. Because why? Why would anyone travel with a pitchfork except us? So, yeah, did all that, I guess. And then somehow 2016, I finished competing and wanted to start fixing my knee. I'd finished 2nd in the world in 2016. Then knee surgeries kind of went south. So I had 8 knee surgeries on my right knee in a 3-year window.
Wow.
Yeah. So 5 ACLs, a high tibial osteotomy, a meniscectomy, an Oates procedure, and then finally total knee replacement in April of 19.
Was that all from competing that you developed that?
I think it all worn out. Like I tore my ACL the first time in college, got it fixed, and then I tore it at a skate park sometime when I owned the bike shop. Playing around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went down a roller, and some little kid had pedaled out in front of me. And so my bike didn't have any brakes on it, so I threw a leg out to stop, popped it.
There it is.
And there it was. Kid never even knew.
So you competed with that knee?
Yeah, the whole time.
Fucked up the whole time.
Yeah, I was 22. I didn't have fucking health insurance. I'm not fixing my knee at that age.
So was it I mean, I have so many questions on the
Highland
Games.
Dive in. I didn't do a very good job of describing who I am. Because I don't know what the fuck.
I've known this about you, but I've been actually saving these questions for this conversation. Right. So Highland Games, world champion. What other countries are competing in this? And how many people in the U.S. are competing? Is there like regional championships and then you go to the world championship?
So no regionals. The sport's a little fucking weird. Like there's not a federation. And so we're kind of paid entertainment for like Renaissance festivals, Scottish festivals, things like that.
Sick.
And so we're putting on a show for those crowds. Like there's not people coming out like the CrossFit Games that are like, "Go, Matt Vincent." It's not. There's people going out and they're like, "Look at these fucking guys
drinking their ale with a
yelling at us."
With a big old
part of the gig is putting on a show. We're fucking paid entertainment. Now, none of it's rigged, and we're really competing in events and we train for it. But In the U.S. as professionals, there's probably 10 big games. And every game is invite only for professionals. And there's a bit of an old boys club of like, if you don't know athletic directors, you're not getting invited. My career went really lucky on that thing. I traveled a lot the first 2 years as an amateur and met a lot of athletic directors and was winning their amateur games, which is an easy way to get an invite to being a pro. But a lot of those pro seats as well are like someone has to fucking die for you to get their spot.
It's like grandfathered in.
Yo, there's just people that'll be there for fucking decades at the same game.
And what constitutes a pro and an amateur? So you're actually now getting paid at these events?
Yes.
These fat checks or what?
No. So like I'm competing in my best years, probably 22, 23 times a year and spending 2 weeks in Scotland.
It's a lot.
A lot. And in Scotland, like I'm going to compete 11 times in like 16 days.
Wow. So you're like on a circuit. Like this is like.
Yeah. We're road tripping around and going to different places. And some days have more than one game, tons of shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so through that time at my very best, I bet prize money throughout the end of the year is like 35 grand. Better than I'm fucking making playing golf or doing any other fucking hobby at this point in my life.
This is a paid hobby.
It's great. I get to hang out with these same 20 dudes that I love every weekend and get shit-faced and travel around the world.
Wearing a kilt.
For some excuse of being a professional athlete. And I fucking love it, and they're talented guys, don't get me wrong, but like, it wasn't like we chose this instead of the Olympics.
Yep. Yeah.
It's someone's second sport.
Totally. Yep.
Kind of like bobsled.
Yeah. Everyone kind of fell into it a
right.
bit.
No one chose bobsled. They're just old throwers or sprinters.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's no real regionals, and it's invite only. And so at Worlds, to answer the original question, if Worlds was held in another country, we would end up like only having 2 Americans. That was usually just me and Dan McKim for the whole time I was part of it. And then
was he like
he's my nemesis.
Your nemesis.
Yeah. I got 2 worlds on him. He's got 5 on me. I don't know how much nemesis goes the other way, other than I'm just a guy he beat a lot. Fuck, he's goddamn hard to beat. It's hard to beat. And then if we hosted in the U.S., probably 6 or 10 guys would be from the U.S., or 6 or 8 guys would be from the U.S. They would do enough to make it an international thing, but how do we keep costs down?
Yeah.
You invite people from closer. And so at Worlds, like we'd have there are 2 brothers from Poland that were at everything, Sebastian and Lucas Winta, a handful of Scottish boys, Scott Ryder, another world champ that I was around a lot. Scott he's from London or Kent. There's a big Czech thrower, Vlad, who's very good, and then the Americans are pretty spread out. And there's a handful of different dudes that would pop in. Hasey is a guy from Iceland that would show up at games pretty consistently. He lived in Scotland for a while, and so we saw a lot of Hasey.
Were the biggest events in Scotland? Or were some of the rest?
There were some really big events in Scotland. Yeah, the one game that I never did, that's still one of those shitty, itchy bucket list events that I would, if I could figure out throwing enough to sneak back into it, I would. And it's held in Braemar. So it's North Scotland, and Braemar is this big fucking event that like the Queen attends every year. I guess not anymore. But Charles or someone's there.
Yeah.
And so like there's 200,000 people that fucking show up to this thing. But as an athlete, it's terrible. It's terrible. Because the Scottish Highland Games, like they're doing all kinds of shit. They have high jump and long jump and it's basically a track meet on grass. They do bicycle sprints for like 100-mile sprint circuit. All kinds of shit going on.
All in their normal attire.
Most in kilts.
Yeah.
Yeah, most in kilts. And so the Queen being there, I thought that would always be a cool thing. And then plus like the winner of the caber gets like this photo and like meet with the Queen.
Yeah.
And I was like, what a fucking weird thing that I could sneak my way into at some point.
And that many people watching. It's like a true.
Would have been cool.
Legendary.
And so typically, right, like you get a warm up and then you get 3 throws in competition per event. And Braemar, it's held on some like really nice like golf pitch. And so there's no warm ups. And then the time of how long you get to throw really dictates on how long everyone's taking around to do the queen shit. And so, like, there's been plenty of times that game's like, 1 throw per event, no warm-ups.
Keep it going.
And I'm like, fuck, man, that's a long way to travel to Scotland for that, because there's not any games, like, within a week of it on either side. So, like, I couldn't justify the trip with, like, oh, I could go do these 3 or 4 games, catch that one, and then leave. So it being a solo game at that time of the year, I never quite got to do it. But so, yeah, there's big crowds at a lot of them. Celtic Classic was like our national championship every year, and it's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so, like, there's 2 colleges there, and it's like a big free street festival, and so it loads up. We're the main attraction of the day. It's a small field.
What's the walkout like? Is there, like, are they announcing your name? And
you're but you get more. There isn't. We don't get to pick
bagpipes.
Songs. Yeah, more bagpipes. I've heard enough bagpipes. I'm good on those. Like, that quota that for a person has been filled. Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
But yeah, then it ended.
Then.
Yeah, it went from being best in the world to a thing to, like, not being able to walk without a cane.
Was it a choice? Was it that your body basically ended that for you?
Well, my original plan was going into surgery, taking a year off, and going back to compete. Like, 2018 was going to be let them have it.
Got it.
And it did not work out that way.
And you left your job at that point?
So I got fired in 2017. So the knee went south at the end of 2016, got fired in 2017, and then really just leaned into this life at that point. That, like, I'm going to create content for a living.
How was it a blessing? Were you, like, scared to walk away from your job, and that was a blessing that it fired you? Or was it you weren't ready to let that go yet, and it just kind of happened?
The job paid well, right? So, like, I'm probably making $160,000, $170,000 a year plus a free truck, and I work from my house. Like, I've only been to our main office like 5 times a year. It isn't like this is a hard fucking job. I've had hard jobs before, and I've got time to train. They were cool with me traveling, so it was a good gig. And I think at some point I knew that they would let me go. It didn't feel like I was getting support in the area that they had me doing outside sales. And looking back, I don't know whether that's an excuse or reality, but it is, whatever it is. That's how I felt. So I kind of knew that at some point they would let me go. And so I figured, well, if they're going to make that decision at some point, I'll just wait until they do it. And they eventually did. And so from that point, I was like, all right, we knew this was coming. Is our shit together? And I never really went for any other jobs. I didn't take any. Well, I took a couple interviews and gave them a pretty exorbitant amount of money that I was interested in being paid. I didn't want to work in the industry anymore.
So this is 2017?
Yeah.
So you're like, basically, I want to be a content creator. Starting to be a thing around that time.
Well, so Hate's already running. So my apparel brand started in 2014, and so, like, we're doing $1 million a year in 2017.
Got
already.
it. So you have some. I
have a job.
And there's.
I have an income.
Yep. And I'm assuming you've built some level of a personal brand online through social.
Yeah. So we've been doing the YouTube thing for a while.
Got it.
At that point, or at least I have, posting training videos, learning to edit. But I really wanted to lean into doing more of it.
And you were training fitness, Highland game competition style.
Mostly everything was dialed on telling the story of me training for the Highland Games.
Got it.
To that point, right? And so, like, there's this huge change of everything of, like, I can't physically tell that story anymore.
That's deep in the identity.
And the whole crowd came here for it. So what the fuck? How does this work? How does the apparel brand work? How does anything continue to work if I can't be that guy? I can't train the way I used to. I can't be as strong. Like, I'll never hit another PR. And so, what is the message still true? That I still want to do things for the experience of it, that I'm trying to learn more. And did I learn everything I could from that path of competing? Does a third world championship provide me any other different perspective or insight? Probably not.
So at that point, you basically, well, what? So would you start making content on? You can't walk.
I told rehab for 3 years. I showed showing up for surgery and having rehab and journaled and covered a lot of that of, like, well, we're having another fucking surgery. well, we're having another surgery.
What was going on with each surgery? It just wasn't mending the way it was needing to, or you just would go out and...
My body would just eat the cadaver tissue.
Got it.
Like I would rehab for 3 months and go in and everything looks great. And then go in for another checkup and they do a test and be like, it's gone.
Back in, another surgery. What was your mental state at that point? Were you just like...
Struggling.
Got it.
Real struggling. The knee's getting really bad. Like I said, man, being someone that depended so much on the physical thing I've got, when it went away, it was a big shift of like, I don't know how to manage stress anymore. I don't have these tools that have been at my disposal. I've always been so fortunate that this thing has operated to get me where I need to go. And it quit. And being trapped inside of it while this never was hurt was really strange, trying to figure out those limitations. And then down that path, the entire focus that was getting better at Highland Games shifted to I have to get out of pain. And so that became anything that can possibly help, I'll try. So I lose 90 fucking pounds, did carnivore and keto for 2 years. Started trying a lot of new stuff, switched to cannabis instead of fucking opiates because I could see where that started getting weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't like I know that isn't a long-term solution. I can't fucking do that. Switched to cannabis. That helped a lot. That changed a lot of self-awareness type stuff using that tool. And then the cannabis thing kind of became an unlock of growing up in the just say no thing, right? Like a dare and whatever the culture was. And I was never around anyone who say was a functional stoner. And realizing that could work for me. And then like what else I got from it changed a big paradigm of just, well, I thought this would ruin my fucking life. That's what I've been sold since I was a fucking little kid, is that this thing will ruin my fucking life. That I'll be a fucking loser. No, that's true. And so if that's not true, what else is bullshit? And so from that point, I decided to dive into psilocybin, mushrooms, anything else, and got lucky to have a really rad group of friends in Austin that were way ahead of me in that route, and getting to see them operate in a way that I had never been exposed to. Not just the plant medicine thing, but like that the love and not operating out of scarcity and people really wanted to see each other succeed. And I just hadn't been exposed to it. And so seeing people that really operated that way, that like jealousy and bullshit weren't around, and I was like, fuck it, I'll try this. If this is one of the side effects involved with this lifestyle, that one seems sick.
Love and connection.
Yeah, right. Fucking let's dive into that. Because
Yeah.
what I'm not seeing is people's fucking lives falling apart. In fact, they're doing a thing that makes a lot more sense to me, and they seem happier. And happy's what I want.
I think you nailed it. I mean, it's finding drugs in our same thing. I grew up in Dare. It's very polarity, right and wrong, good and bad. Look, I was the one that gave my drug speech.
Yeah, man.
In 6th grade, I was the one that wrote the, now I have an identity, whatever that's all about using psychedelics or drugs for personal development. It's been one of the biggest tools in my life. And I think it's important to say, it's like drugs aren't inherently good or bad.
Nothing.
They can feed to whatever direction you want to take them. And like you said, finding a good group of friends that are grounded, have good future, like working towards something that matters to them and using these substances, that's a key piece to finding, for anyone listening, like working, it's like, they're not inherent silver bullets that you just take them and it's there. It's like you bring intention to them, bring them for a level of growth. I want to actually grow, which can be challenging, ugly, uncomfortable, which I'm sure you went through.
Yeah. It was a lot of letting go of those old things of like, well, fuck, this isn't what I thought it would be. And there is a big apprehension to going down that road from people that aren't in it. And so being able to kind of trust myself and be like, all right, we're going to keep explore this and what's in it and where I can find. And I came out of whatever that dark was a lot more aware. Getting out of pain was a big step in the right direction. But at that point, like,
what were the big contributors to pain?
Just my knee being fucking trashed from 9 surgeries. It just whittles away at it.
And then you shifted diet, nutrition,
Mm-hmm. Everything. So like I've got a video on my, for fucking our history, right? Like I've got a video on my YouTube channel the very first time I did a cold plunge with Kelly at his house, like in this little inflatable shower basket that he had.
Kelly's evolution of cold
His
plunging.
evolution of cold. Yeah. And so it was going to see and be around Kelly that opened me up to all that.
Wow.
And so when my knee got bad, talking to him as being my PT really, I had to figure out how to get access. So I built a DIY chest freezer like in 2015 on my video and started using cold on a daily basis that way. And it was one of the few places that I could get away from my knee. The problem was my knee was bad enough that when I got out of the cold, it wasn't like, oh, we've got a 3-hour time before it's shitty again. It was right when it came out. You can't really live in there very well.
But you get those 3 minutes of...
But I get 3 fucking minutes.
Of a pause, let the mind settle for a second.
And the first time I did mushrooms was another time that it all went away. And I was like, oh, we're free from it. We're free from that thing tugging at our fucking shirt, trying to get my attention. And that was realizations for me, of depression too. Of like, oh, we're free of that thing tugging at our shirt every day. We can actually see a little clearer, like, what do we really want? What's really important? What are the things that make me happy? And how do we take action to get us closer to that? And a lot of trial and error and fucking a lot of things up.
What is that direction that you talk about? I mean, I know your just message in general is just about like looking forward.
Looking forward, man.
Letting go of the past. You got X amount of summers, years, seasons left in life.
I don't fucking want the coolest thing I've ever done to happen in my 20s, in my 30s. Like that's the coolest part of the fucking story. It's like, man, I remember feeling that, being hurt and locked in the fucking dark and really down and being like, I could just see the future ahead of me. And like, I knew it all. Like I could see the 2 weeks vacation. I could see a very standard life. And I've never been attracted to it. And pretending that it's going to make me happy when it's supposed to, it wasn't the answer for me. And so if I don't want that, I've got to be the one to do something about it. And I've got to start figuring out how. What gets me closer to this other thing? And the other thing for me is adventure. It's life experience. I want to do more shit because that opens my map of understanding and experience, which allows me to process things better, have better empathy. I understand a little bit better. I just don't learn well from books, so I got to go do. And I got to go be around people that resonate that way. At that point, I decided as well that like these people that I was around, whether that was Kelly Starrett at the time, Kyle Kingsbury, Aubrey Marcus, Rob Bailey, these mentors that I found, like, so I started going like once a quarter. Like I just fucking have to go be around it. And if I'm not around it, like I get real weird. I have to go do it. And at that point kind of committed that that's one of those things I'll do is I got to go. I can't sit here and get the same thing. I have to go explore and then come back, process, put to use what I figured out, leave again.
Beautiful cadence right there.
Yeah, I try. It's trying to figure out what works for me. I know plenty of friends that like look at my life and the chaos of it and the amount that we're on the go, and they're like, I'd be fucking miserable because it's nonstop.
Seems like, as I've gotten to kick it with you and we've talked over time, it's like you have a big self-awareness to that part of yourself. Like you like chaos. You like you said, I have ADD mind where I'm like all over, like there's a lot going on, but you operate from that.
Right.
And it would probably go crazy if there was, like, I think of all the brands that you have and you're like, I know what that is. What if I focused? I'm like, I don't even know if that would work for you. Like maybe,
Well, that's why I have to have other people who can maintain the focus on the thing as a job. Whereas I can stay visionary.
They balance it. Yeah. And that's good awareness too, is understanding like
where's my real value to the company.
Totally.
Nobody can do the Matt Vincent jobs, which is the actual connecting, which is the travel, the experience, the being able to mine these life experiences, bring back some important parts to share with people about, what else is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did I get from it? Not just the obtainable. Like, I'm not adding stamps to my passport for the sake of showing you my passport.
Yeah, I think you're a bridge for people to go, like, you gas people up. Like, dude, go do the thing. Go, like, you really are about that. Like, we all, I think, want to, but you actually do that really, really well. Like, that's everything you put out there, just being around you. Like, you're bringing people in today. We're here at Sunday service at Dope, and it's like everyone here, you're encouraging this people to go live lives that are authentic to them.
That's what I want to see. Like, I don't know that my life is right. Like, I don't believe that's true. Like, I don't think this isn't what you should do to find yourself. But I think you should figure out what it is you're into. And whether or not the things you're into are things you chose, or did they come pre-installed from the people you were around and the longitude and latitude you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even something as simple as religion. I remember having that conversation with my mom about, well, did you choose to be Methodist, or if you were born in a different longitude and latitude, are we talking about being Mormon, or are we talking about being Muslim? Mm-hmm. Or did you choose this because it makes the most sense?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I never thought of it. And I think most people don't think of it. That you just come around from what feels normal, which is the environment, right? But then actually getting to look at it and be like, does that have to be?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing does.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because there's culture, we're all embedded in infinite layers of culture that we don't recognize.
For sure.
That we take on. And there's always an unshedding that can go. I think sometimes I've even gone, you can almost spin yourself crazy. Like, did I choose this? Did I not choose this?
Yeah.
And it's but I think it's important on the ones that we're actually dictating large scales of our life. We understand, do we choose this? Do we not choose this? Especially from a religious standpoint, spirituality standpoint.
And the total awareness for me was realizing that I choose all of it. Like, no matter what it is, if it's currently existing as part of, let's say, my operating system. If I have an awareness that there's an operating system that got installed, it's up to me to decide, do I want to keep the code that's currently running? Because I can change my experience and my perspective on it and change it if I want to. I don't have to be. I was very confidently atheist for a long time. Mm-hmm. That's changed. I don't know what the current thing is, but I believe there's a bigger. Mm-hmm. That's it. Right. And I can land on that and admit I didn't know. And it allows me to continue to change and evolve and grow because I'm getting more experience. I don't have to dig my heels in on something because I'm identified with it. That allows this kind of continued growth and direction that I can follow.
Get that.
Man, I just want to see people feel that way about their lives. I don't give a fuck what it is that does it for them, but find it. Find whatever that thing is that makes you feel the way I felt about Highland Games. Or whatever that thing that adventure brings me, you should know your thing. Because that's your escape hatch. That's your way to go get present and be in with yourself and find the awareness. But, if you don't have any, and you're just around chaos and things that are too stimulating and what you think is adding to you, it isn't. Mm-hmm. And you can bury your heels.
Yeah. I mean, life is, it's challenging to find, that is kind of the journey. I mean, a lot of us, I want to actually jump into this because you were married before. Mm-hmm. And then
I was married. I was in a 13-year relationship, married for 9.5.
Did you get married really young?
I don't think really young. I got married at, what year is that now? It's probably 26. That seems right.
26?
Yeah, 25, 26.
Not fresh out.
Not super young. And as far as the environment I was in, I felt very late.
Oh, so you almost felt that cultural pressure?
Already.
Like you were in that
and
was
then as soon as I'm married, when are we having kids?
that was because you wanted kids or
No,
because
I've never wanted to have kids.
interesting.
I thought that I'm supposed to.
Talk to me about because why I bring this up because my partner and I were something we're pursuing, like talking about, and I've kind of always been on the fence of having kids. Not something I've wanted to do, or just I didn't know. You know, I've almost actually been envious of people that knew they didn't or they did.
Yeah,
like,
I did not.
You did not.
No, I'm far too selfish. And knowing myself enough to admit that saves a kid a lot of stress. I know what things I like and don't like, one of which is freedom. I like being able to leave and go and do what I want to do and fuck off and not have to answer to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Me making that decision takes that choice away from me, especially for a period of time. I have never enjoyed the company of kids. There's that big part of it. I do think, however, as a life experience person, I mean, and look, I've got a vasectomy. Like, I ain't fucking having kids.
You're out.
I'm out. Not interested. My partner's not interested. Sweet. There's a really unique part of the life experience that is raising a kid. And there's a lot of lessons that come from it. Like, I'm not naive to that there's something special that happens there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to opt out of that path, I'm not going to fucking halfway this one.
Mm-hmm.
That if I'm going to be a fucking guy who chose not to have kids and live like a lunatic, then I'm going to damn sure live like a fucking lunatic.
I respect that's.
I won't waste it.
Yeah, it's committed.
I ain't fucking hanging out and doing the same bullshit that I would if I had kids.
But at 26, you wanted to have kids, or you were pursuing that. Like, was it like
I really thought I thought it was the next thing to do. Like, that was on the life thing.
What was that feeling inside of you? Like when you know you don't want to be doing something, but you're kind of on this autopilot going towards something that's not of what's actually what you want?
My thoughts on it at the time were very much I'm very good at anything I give a shit about. And I believe having a kid I would give a shit about. So I believe I would be a good dad. I think it would cost me some other things that I'm interested in on a personal note, right? It's an exchange. But I was kind of banking on that like, I know I'll be on board once we're there.
Mm-hmm.
But leading up to it, like trying to have kids for 2 years and not successfully doing it, fucked up me and the ex. Just too much. And there was a lot that I missed. Like, we went through all that while I was having 9 knee surgeries and everything else. Like, the window of trying to have kids came after I finished competing, which would have been like in this major transition. And yeah, just different direction with my partner at the time, man. She really wanted it, and she was struggling to get pregnant, and I never saw the correlation as well, that like her body not working to do that is how I felt about my machine quit working. And I missed a lot. I missed a lot through that. Just too dug into my own shit. And on the backside of it and catching more awareness of it is like, I don't want kids. I don't want it. So set that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pretend.
Then you guys had that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and that wasn't the end of everything. There was a lot to it. It just too many things at once.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was
major shift at that time. You're going through marriage ending, Highland Games ending.
Yeah, the real kickoff to that whole thing too would have been in April of 2014. My dad died. Pancreatic cancer. And so he had like an 11-month fight. And so, I mean, watching my dad go from being dad and normal to dead in 11 months. And like, I realized how quick that can happen. And so this banking on this idea of like, well, I'll get to do the adventure shit later. I don't believe. I don't think any of it's guaranteed, man. Like, I don't know how long I got. I know that as of today, it's X-1. And so for me, that led into building that 16-12 philosophy of. So my dad finished his battle with cancer the day before my birthday. And I turned 31 the next day. He died at 62. So it was this very clear halfway thing, just that I could see of like, maybe you're halfway right now. Mm-hmm. Can't tell me you're not. You don't have any way to say. You can say you've stacked the cards in your favor or anything else, but you don't know if it's 2 weeks or if it's 10 fucking years or 30 years or 50 years. And so that was the number I took. That's for 31 more years of life at that point, it's 1,612 weeks. And so everything I've ever dreamed about and want to accomplish has to take place in that time. And some of those things are going to take 10 years to get done. We should probably start. Start now. Stop waiting. Stop putting it off. Stop not figuring out solutions and get to fucking work. And so now at 39, like as of this week, we're probably like 1,151 weeks. And that's what that jar of marbles is there on the end of the table. Started with 1,612 in it. And now it's got the correct amount. And every Monday I pull one out, take a look at it, and decide how was it spent. Was it spent doing things I love and passionate about, getting toward where I'd like to go, who I'd like to be, what I'd like to experience? Or was it done with a bunch of things that I was obligated to do that week that I'm supposed to be at? Either way, it goes in the trash. Like, I'm not a martyr for one way or the other. No one way's right. The week's gone. Mm-hmm. And so why? Why spend it not doing the things I'm into? If it's not worth anything at the end anyway. Those are the weeks that are important, not the ones that have fucking gone in the trash. I don't give a shit about those. Same reason I don't wander around trying to tell people I'm a Highland Games world champion anymore, man. That's 2016. That shit feels like forever ago. It feels like a different person.
What would you want to be called now? Like in this form of identity that you're in?
I like being a creator. I really like that. I like that term. That definitely hits the correct ego marks of wanting to be an artist. And if I get to create for a living, I feel like that's being an artist. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys I'm more attracted to anyway. Like your Grant Cardones and business guys. Great. I want some of that information, but I don't want that lifestyle. I'm not attracted to the hanging out, smoking a cigar, doing man thing. I'm way more interested in getting weird in the woods. And so I can learn some stuff from there and then come back and then do more of the thing I'm into.
Give me a breakdown of gotten a taste of your life today. Give me, what's the Matt Vincent, the day in the life look like?
A day in the life. So I am typically awake sometime between 3 and 5 a.m. I haven't used an alarm clock in a really long time.
Is that by choice?
Yep.
It just happened. Your body's there.
I'm awake.
Yep.
I am a morning person. Have been since I was a kid. I was the fucking kid at 7 trying to figure out why I can't go annoy the other neighborhood kids already. Luckily, my parents aren't savages just trying to get rid of me and kept me in an appropriate amount of time for us not to be run out of town. But that's never changed. Like, I've never slept in. And even in college, like when you normally sleep in at like a chunk of your life, one day a week I would, because I would just run myself into the ground the rest of the days. So now, I'm usually up between 3 and 5, and then I come here first and start my morning routine. Perfect day, my morning routine takes about 2 hours. And so that is an hour of cardio, usually zone 2, steady state cardio. I try to keep a pretty limited dose of my phone during that time because, it's fucking 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm. So you're coming here that early.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? It's always the same time here. It's like a casino. Can't tell what it is. Like a strip club, right? It's an empty strip club.
I walked out earlier, and for anyone listening, you'll see footage. But yeah, it's neon lights. You don't know if it's 3 a.m. or noon or 10 p.m. It is definitely got a Vegas club vibe.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily we can change the lights if we want to make it bright. You can. But So yeah, I show up here, I do that hour, and I usually try to watch something or listen to a podcast that is new. Like I want new information to start the day. Something that's getting me thinking in a new way. In the same way, like I want blood flow to the rest of the body, holding like 140 heart rate, get things moving, and then get my brain moving, thinking about new shit.
What are your brain? What are your podcasts right now? Who are you listening to?
I'll listen to a lot of Rogan, and that one's really based on guest. Like I love Randall Carlson stuff. I love different history shit. I've been listening to Quentin Tarantino has a podcast. Eli Roth has a podcast. Where they'll really nerd out into cinema. And I like movies. This is my number one form of media that I prefer to consume things in, and I love that art. So listening to directors talk, I fucking love it. Seeing these guys that build universes in their films, I'm so impressed by. Like Tarantino or Wes Anderson or any of these incredible directors. So I'll usually watch something that's new because I don't want to zone out. I want to be present. And then from there, I'll go to the sauna. And I usually shift to an audiobook in the sauna. And then while I'm listening to the audiobook, something's going to pop up and I'm going to start journaling. And if not, I'm going to start journaling.
You actually write, take notes?
I do it on my phone.
Yep.
Yeah. And that way it's just easier for me to copy and paste it and send it to my team if it's worth a fuck and we're going to use it. Most of like our Monday motivational content comes from my journaling in the sauna. And then post sauna, it's straight into the cold plunge and spend 3 minutes there focused on breath. And man, I come out ready to fucking go. Like I am ready to come in here and attack the day. So I am at my desk usually by 8. And then my phone starts trying to explode with information about 9:30 is I think when the world tends to reach out and need things from me. And so that way, like I've already got 3 fucking hours or 4 hours worth of me, like putting my own oxygen mask on to start the day. So my really active hours work-wise is I like 6 a.m. till about 3 p.m. I'm very effective in that window. And after that, like I need to start tapering down. And so it's lunch or something I'll order in here. I train during that time. So I kind of now treat the gym like a giant fidget toy. Like I have something I'm training for. And so I'll break it up into like 3 or so 20-minute sessions.
Like you're training for an event or you're training for a muscle group or?
So it's usually been a thing. Training for the sake of training, I can't fucking seem to give a shit.
Got it. So it's an event. I'm going on my biking trip.
Yeah, doing this 200, the 143 mile bike ride would have been the last thing that like 12 or 15 weeks of pretty focused attention went on.
Do you have some right now?
I'm really flirting with the idea of trying to take a boxing match. And so that one's a big one that I'm scared of. So like that's a flag of like we should go that direction. I'm so from now till January 1st is kind of a flirting with training for a boxing match. Plus I've already got this giant fucking engine I've never had before because I've been doing all the cycling. So let's hold on to as much of that cardio that I've got right now and put it to use in a thing. So I don't have to do that and learn to fight. I've already got this gnarly fucking engine that I can hold by doing like 3 5Ks a week or do 3 or 4 hours of cardio, which is not a problem. And so I've already got this neat tool that I've never had being a big guy. I'm an explosive athlete. So like having endurance has been really interesting. And then going into the fight thing, I've just never competed in anything like it. I've never had a combat sport background. I think there's a lot you learn about yourself.
Totally.
Walking toward that, learning how to throw punches, learning how to fucking take punches. I think your body gets more resilient. Of course it would. Why wouldn't it adapt to that stress? And so that's what I'm interested in is what will it adapt to? Plus the experience of getting to walk out and like keep your shit together. Because man, you got to manage it. You have to show up that day and like keep your shit together.
Yeah. The thing I always think about, I mean, just in my limited, it's like, how do you respond when you get punched in the face?
Yeah.
Do you come forward? Do you like, and there's different levels of punch. Some punches are going to knock you even that much more.
Some
it's
are
like,
verbal.
They're fucking scary.
Right.
And no, I think combat sports is one of the greatest places to truly level up in confidence and create extreme humility.
I'm into it. Even getting beat, I don't fucking care. I've lost things before. It's not that big a deal. But I think the overall lessons I could learn in 6 months of it would be rad. Do I think I want to fight? I do not. I would like to steal all the beginner gains from boxing and then leave.
I was hoping we were going to get a big time call out here.
Fuck
You
no,
were going to call
man.
someone out and we're going for it.
That good for everyone pulling that off. Good for everyone pulling that off. And like having some friends that have gone to boxing have opened it up for me. Like seeing Hapthor go into it and seeing Steffi go into it. I'm wildly impressed. Especially that, like, not just that they went into boxing, but they choose to go to a new thing they suck at after being the best in the world at a thing. And I think that says a lot more about the athlete. That, like, Steffi or Hapthor didn't just fucking cruise around being world's strongest man or the mountain or the world's best powerlifting female or a physical therapist or fucking whatever else Steffi's done. She's Steffi Cohen, and Steffi can fucking do anything she wants. And I feel the same way about Hapthor now. And like, that's how I want to feel about me. I'm not stuck being what I was. I get to write the story every day.
So that's an exciting storybook. Then there's
Sure.
unlimited identities that get to be created, new things that, yeah, it's important to be like, I love you talking about being comfortable being that beginner. Like that is, you know, I'm speaking to myself here. It's like just getting over that, like how much more you get to live in life if you're just willing to suck at something.
It's the only way. You don't get to be good at things unless you suck at it.
What have you found? I mean, as a guy that's remade himself multiple times, what are the tools to it? Because that takes a level of security, confidence, like willing to go be embarrassed, which is easy sitting here at a table to say, yep, I'm going to go do that. But when you suck in front of your peers and you have to, when you're usually good at, like you're a guy that succeeds.
Sure.
So when you're succeeding, that becomes a thing. And now you suck. What are the tools that's allowed you to suck at things?
I remember at sucking at stuff, whether that was Highland Games, whether that was throwing. Granted, I'm 12, right? But we can write off, well, I sucked at it because I'm 12. No, you sucked at it because you're a fucking beginner. Because you don't speak the language. You're not fluent in it. And so over time, getting that fluency takes repetition. And like, if I want to get stronger, like I figured out a pretty good recipe of progress that came from the athletic thing. That I have to show up with intention X number of days a week and kind of give it an 8 out of 10 effort forever. So why would the way I want to improve my communication in a relationship be different? Why would, if I want to learn to be more resilient in breath work or any of these things, I have to admit first I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then I need to find someone who does. But too many people just want to pretend they fucking know what's going on out of this fear of admitting I don't know what I'm fucking doing. But no one does. Everyone's trying to figure out this weird goddamn life thing. And we live at such an interesting time.
I think that is the most important thing that resonates the most. Like nobody knows what the fuck is going on. Like it is the greatest thing. It's the biggest liberating statement that like whoever you look up to, whoever I look up to and think they don't know it. They're just doing it.
And if they ever pretend that they do, they're lying to you.
It is the greatest. I've shared it on this many of times. I found that out early in my career when I watched the higher up executives. It's like, they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're fucking doing. They're still just kids. They're still kids figuring it out.
But they're willing to do it. They're willing to figure it out. And
willing to take the hit if it doesn't work.
That's key.
One of those that comes with that is realizing there aren't really consequences to most choices. Right? Like, it's not going to end my life tomorrow. Like, I can play this fear thing, right? Of like, I think Tim Ferriss covers it really well in 4 Hour Work Week of like, write the biggest thing that goes wrong, that what happens, right? And it is my fucking warehouse burns down, this place burns down, we lose all the equipment, insurance doesn't fucking pay through, it's all gone. Like that would have to happen in a day. And the truth is, if I look at that worst case scenario of it, how long am I out from making an income? I bet I can get back positive income in under 3 months. I have skills, I can go work, I can find a job, and that thing gets me to the next opportunity. Mm-hmm. But none of that shit's going to happen. It's not going to fucking set fire tomorrow. And so everything else, it gradually falls apart. And so it's you being willing to listen to like, fuck, that isn't a long-term thing we should be doing. We need to fix that and try to correct course. And what worked yesterday doesn't mean it fucking works for shit today. You have to be willing to want to solve that problem all the time. Like as an entrepreneur, one of the things I love most about it is days aren't the same. Mm-hmm. I have different things to figure out all the fucking time. And so I'm seeking new answers and seeking new information. Like what gets me better? What allows me to focus a little bit better? What allows me to reach customers better? What about the people who gave a shit about marketing the way I cared about Highland Games? I'd like to go find them. And then listen and admit, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing over here.
So with it, it's recognizing sucking is a part of the process. And
you got to suck at stuff. It's the only way to get better is you have to suck at stuff. And I chose running after my knee replacement. And the biggest reason why is I'm terrible at it. Do you know how much room there is to get better at a thing you're fucking awful at and you shouldn't be able to do because of a fake knee? Anything over walk is success. There's so much room for improvement. Am I going to be best in the world at it? Not fucking close. I don't want to be best in the world at a thing again. Chances are I won't find a second one. So we can remove that from the fucking table.
What's the thing now that you are working on that you suck at?
A lot of it. This stuff. This being able to communicate better.
Yeah.
This being able to sharpen my ability to translate what's in my head to people. And believing I've landed on a thing that I think could help a lot through my experience. And not everyone's going to get a chance to share the mentors I've had and the experience I've had. And so if I can open up the door to one-on-one connection to share what I've learned, I want to. Because I didn't fucking, I traveled around and busted my ass to find all this information, but none of it's magic. Mm-hmm. It's just continuing to work and how to figure out how to build relationships as adults, make new fucking friends, find new people to be inspired by. Surround yourself with people that are on the path you want to be on.
Yeah, I remember you said this earlier months ago to me, but it's always resonated. It's just like, you have this radical life. It's like, it didn't just happen.
No, it's not an accident.
It's not like it was, and I think it's important for everyone to recognize, like, whoever we admire, whoever the life that's inspiring to us, like, it doesn't just happen overnight. We're seeing an overnight process, but in the sense of, like you said, it was years of.
And it's everyone, right? It's everyone there. I mean, your story with Cold Plunge, like in the last 2 years, you guys have built a huge business that's really taken off and kind of been a rocket ship and has provided a lot of new opportunities and stuff like that. But you don't get here without the time that you spent doing float stuff.
100%. It all builds to it. I would have never thought 5 years ago I'm doing podcasts and building a brand and getting cold plunging and spreading that message across the world. That was not the plan.
Of course not. What was the plan?
Oh man, the plan. We're gonna go 5 years ago. 5 years ago, that would have been 2017. Shit, I had just gotten the first Capital Floats open, and I had just made like couple dollars to not be stressing about rent. And it was one of the most like I that's an actual genuine breath out of like calming my system down. Where it was like so there was no plan. It was, what there was, and I said it to multiple people, I want to build a company where I show up and it's an awesome work environment and I wanted to scale that. And I knew Capital Floats wasn't that into the structure that it was. It's a brick and mortar, one person's on shift. It wasn't really this like company culture. We had a culture, but not like an office culture and this team, different team. And so I did want to build that. But back in 2017, yeah, there was no plan. I just knew I needed to calm the fuck down after what I had just gone through to open the first Capital Floats. I'd kind of had my dark night of the soul process.
Sure.
You know, just crawling across the finish line. Lucky I had some loving people around me that were there to kind of pick me up, but it was pretty dark.
So is there a moment of like, so we did all this and it was worth what?
I did have that. I had multiple moments of, I'm grateful for the reflection of like just tears of like just crying to be like, this is like, it's built and it's open, especially from Cap. Like I had a vision to go on that brick and mortar journey where it's like an idea in my head to raise money, to build it out and go do that process, like where no real entrepreneur background. It finally got open and it was like, it was open, you know, it was like, there was actual physical thing. It wasn't like it wasn't an online thing. It was, this is a real in the flesh. And I did have that moment, thankfully, where I was just like reflective of, my God, you did it.
Yeah.
And then I went through about 2.5 years of stressing myself out massively of wait, I should be on to the next thing. You know, like started a CBD company, which was there was good intention behind it, good group, but truly it was kind of jumping I need to be doing something. It wasn't 100% all in. You know, trying to search for the thing of like, part of me knowing you need patience and a part of me knowing, or part of me wanting, you got to go make the thing to happen. You know, I'm very much like a proactive, like you don't just, you got to make but sometimes it doesn't work that way.
No.
And so, yeah, that the plan has just kind of presented itself moment by moment.
So what's currently happening with Capital Float?
Capital Floats, it's running. We got 2 locations in the Sacramento region. Haley was business partner. She started on as like Haley Kleinhans. She's CEO of the company now. She started as like entry level, slept at the float center overnight. She became the manager, came to me one day and was like, I want to start my own center. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. And I just I believed in her. She had the audacity just enough to actually go and
fuck yeah,
not quite knowing what she was saying, but like, you're going to get this shit done.
She'll figure it out.
And she figured it out.
Whether I help her or not, she's going to figure this out. So choose to be an ally.
That was it.
Fuck
that was it. And I chose that. And 3 years later, she opened Auburn. And she's, you know, and it's been an incredible, like I look at that, something I really reflect on of the timing because, you know, Plunge launched in September of 2020. Cap Floats Auburn launched which is the second location, in June of 2020. So we're talking 3 months into the pandemic. She was busy just getting that thing was, you know, it was a tough time to open. And she got that kind of rolling and I was still running Cap and we were kind of doing it simultaneously. But she got about a year under her belt, and that's when I like Plunge for myself. There was no room and space to be operating Capital Floats.
Yeah.
So from there, it was a perfect time for her to step in and be like, I'm ready to take this over. This is my vision now. So she's kind of she is running the show. It's her team she's building, unifying the centers, whether, you know, in conversation of whether she wants to go start more and grow that brand even more. But that's like the greatest successful feeling to me is like, yes, that seed started in my mind, the name Capital Floats and building a float center. But it's like, it's living outside of me now. Like it grows larger than what I was going to take it or what I think of it as. And so that's like to me, that's the true success of anything created. Can it live just outside of my own momentum?
That is a big one. I'm very, very into that one. Like trying to figure out how to eliminate you from your own business.
Totally. Like let this thing, it's not my, because then there's a difference when it's your business. It's your business. You got to own, like it's what it is, but it's not truly, it hasn't grown up. It's not a true organization that's like now an entity that's living and breathing, you know, and you want to have good intention behind it. But when I can step away or whoever it is and it starts to it has a mission and vision that people are bought into and can push it forward. That to me is like really magic.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I seeing other people do it. I love it. I mean, it's not like I wouldn't want to scale Not Dead Yet to be something that size, but I also got to be really honest to that part of me that's like, we got to go, we got to wander. And I know that like I'll burn out the other way and I won't reach a finish line. Seeing people do it. How was it walking away essentially from day to day, having input, getting an opinion basically on how it runs?
Easier than I thought.
Okay.
And there's moments of identity wrapped into it. You know, I see something happening and I want to do it different. And it's also very liberate. It's like a trust, you know, you're building a relationship and trust. And of course there's moments of, I think that I would want to do it differently, or I want to say this and it's just not my place. You know, it's like, I'm there to support, I'm there to give feedback. It is still my company. So it's, you know, and there's involvement there. So there's a level to speak up at certain moments, but when it's in discerning that difference of when to speak up, where it's like, you're just talking because you want to give an opinion. It's really, your opinion's not needed right now. And
no one asked.
Yeah. It's that, but man, it's hard when it's there, and there is levels of like realizing how much of like, especially Capital Float's like, it was my first baby, you know, first company of real identity as an entrepreneur, and like the heart forward dynamic I had of starting that company and like wanting to give this to the world was like, I mean,
it's a big why.
It was everything. It was, you know, nothing was going to stop me from getting that thing open.
So what got you there? Like, what made the float thing be this why for you?
It had almost become like a virus in my mind that if I don't do, like, there was no other option. Like, the world split off and it was like, this is what you're doing. And you know how powerful floating is. Yes, I love floating. I thought it is incredible modality, incredible community builder. Thought it was a net positive to the planet. I also saw it as an unquantifiable door to the future for me. And it was like this, similar to you say, it's not going to be me forever, but that's my in to whatever this next in is. And that is totally played out. It is created friends, network that I never imagined, confidence. It was my entrance to Mike. It was the entrance to like, it has become the thing. And I view Plunge as that now. Like, I don't know what's after Plunge. I mean, I'm all in on this right now, but there's these like moments where it's like the why is, you don't need to figure out why you have to do this, but that feeling in the stomach and the thought in the mind can't go away. And it's like, it has to get done.
Compulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with throwing. It's not any different.
How did you, so with the Highland Games, I'm curious on that. Did you just started throwing, did you show up to a fucking Renaissance fair and you're like, oh, this shit's bad? Like,
okay. So as like a traditional thrower, say like the Olympic stuff, like competing in the NCAA as a shot put, discus, and hammer thrower, I think you're aware the Highland Games exist because it's kind of where the history of the sport came from.
Got it.
So it predates the Olympics. And then like at some point people have seen Braveheart and they've seen when they throw stones at each other, and there's some reference there, and everyone has kind of seen a caber. And then there's a guy in Baton Rouge, Mark Cummings, that was training strongman stuff. My brother had got into it and he's like, yo, this is really fun. Like, training for something again is really fun. I'm like, fuck, I'll come hang out. And found some success with it, with strongman. It was fun, learned a lot. And then there was a Highland Games coming to Baton Rouge that hadn't been there in like 2 years. And Mark was like, well, I'm definitely going to go throw. And I was like, fuck, I definitely want to do it. I have a throwing background. This is great for me. It's like having a cheat code. And so we trained a couple times for it and then went out. And that game in Louisiana, they were hosting like this big north-south competition that the amateurs do every year. And during that game, I think my throwing at that amateur competition would have placed me like 3rd or 4th within the north-south thing. And so then I came back the next day.
So you were immediately on the radar.
Yeah. So I came back the next day and ended up hanging out with a bunch of the dudes competing to learn about sport, learn as much as I can, and start the network, right? Like I got to start meeting people. Found more games to go do and just started going to Dallas to a couple games from Baton Rouge. So that was like 9 hours worth of driving. Meeting more athletic directors. And so like that 2008 would have been like my first game in like October or November. And then 2009, I probably did 10 games. And then 2010, I won an amateur world championship.
Got it.
And then 2011, I won an amateur world championship. And then that got me an automatic invite to the professional world championship, which was like 2 weeks later. I thought was a year later. Nope.
So you went pro quick.
Yeah. So went pro and then went to my first world championship and took 2nd. I got nothing to fucking lose, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to be here. Let them have it.
I think it's super cool that you kind of notice this trend. When you get into something, you go immerse yourself in the culture hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sounds like the games, you just got around the athletes.
Yep. Same with psychedelics.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like that community of people, like there's something I'm desiring here. And there's like a level, like you said, it's like, to me, 5 for the average of the 5 people we kick it with, like whatever that number is, but it's like, that is.
And if those 5 people are my wizards, I'm going to have some fucking really good wizards.
100%.
No losers on my fucking squad, man. And that all depends how you want to define loser, right? Like I want people that are self-aware, that give a shit. Like I want people that are so obsessed with their pursuit of greatness that they can't think of anything else, but also are aware enough that they don't get to shit on other people because of their pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not more important. Everyone's is. And so getting to be around more people that operated that way, it has been awesome.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great hack. I think it's a great thing for anyone that's like looking to create something, or you want to get into business and start like you better be around people that are starting companies. You want to be a content creator. Like, are you truly around what a content creator looks like? Someone that's out, you know, living that life and being in a creative mode, and how to not just like create content, but understand the technologies behind it, understand the trends.
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to learn what's actually going on behind those scenes?
It's a lot, and that space is so hard to navigate. I loved making videos and editing and doing all that. Nothing's ever popped for me. Like nothing ever took off and kind of exploded quickly. And so I feel like because of that, things are pretty sustainable, that they don't disappear either. And that's been kind of true. And so being able to kind of look at the big picture of what we've got going, and is this still the message I want to continue to follow, and how are we continuing to tell the story? It's been great bringing other people on who can help tell the story better than me. So like having Brant behind the camera and managing the editing, I can do enough to get us to the point that I can afford a Brant to try to tell a better story. Mm-hmm. But then it's still on me to try to have him tell the story. Like I've still got to be able to communicate better. And so all that part with the content creation was learning. Like, I mean, I did a daily vlog for 2 years. And so learned to fucking edit. I looked at
you put it out every day.
Yeah, every day.
You went Casey Neistat style.
And it was very much in the same way of like getting better at throwing, right? Like I know it's repetition. So let's start making fucking videos. This one's not going to be good. So stop wondering about that. So no matter how good and how much time and effort I put into video number 1 or podcast number 1 or book number 1, book number 10 is going to be better. So let's get to number 10. Mm-hmm. And for doing that, I got to put out 9 books that I may not be as happy with. Except that that's part of the routine. Mm-hmm. That I got to suck for a while. Mm-hmm. And suck's only defined by me.
It makes the not even there's ever a destination, but it makes the 10th book feel so rewarding.
But you know there's not a destination at this point, right? Like you've been in this long enough to know there's not a there
100%.
That you're going to hit and be like, "Whoo, feet up."
It's it's the moments, but doing 1, 2, and 3 and having shitty work that you can look back on is like, it's actually to me one of the most like fun parts of the whole thing.
And what I really love too, instead of judging that guy because the work's subpar, I love that he's got the balls to do it.
And I can't wait till I look at me 3 years from now and be like, man, I sucked.
Yeah.
Like
right?
that's the greatest. And I don't view myself as sucky right now.
No, but
like
you should.
It's the paradox of the whole thing of like, can I be confident and, like, yeah, can I be secure in what I'm doing right now and confident to take the next step, but equally be able to look back and be like, man, I was
we had no idea what we're doing.
I feel like that a lot with this podcast right now, man. It's like this will be 12th, 13th episode, something like that. So I'm new and I feel shitty. This is like my shitty thing that I'm doing right now. Like, how do you get better at this thing? And it's like, you dissect the game film, you look at it, like how to learn the art of podcasting. So it's, this will be a cool episode to look back in 50 episodes from now.
Sure.
Be like, whoa, look at what he was doing there. Like,
well, and for me, right, like I realized that the better mastery I got of my stuff, right, like why I'm into the things I'm into, why I'm pursuing what it is, explaining it, like having that piece. The podcast gives me a lot of repetitions. And then, gives me a lot of this being able to communicate. And then doing content, I can speak to a camera, right? So there's a lot of repetitions, which have now got me to the place of being able to speak on stage at events and perform, right? Like if I don't have the balls that it took to compete in front of people and suck, and then match that with 10 years of outside sales experience of cold calling and not hearing someone, I don't give a shit about no. What a waste. And so like that experience and taking people to lunch and knowing how to build relationships for the professional aspect has done very well that if I want to build relationships that I want, I can do it. And so having all of that history now has got me to the point that I can speak on stage at these events, that I can speak to a group every week on certain topics because I've thought about them a lot, and I'm still looking for new information. And so sharing what I've processed out of this, that skills only come from doing the 250 podcasts. One thing always builds to the next. Like you're not doing this right now had you not done Float. And likely, if we look at trending things in 5 years, who knows what the fuck you're doing? It's not worth pretending that you know. So I don't want to follow an expectation anymore in my life of what I think 5 years is supposed to look like. So I want to know what my intentions are going forward and just lean into putting my actions to follow those. And then that allows me to let the wheel go wherever it wants to go because of following that true.
Which kind of can lead us to this. I won't ask you where you're going to be in 5 years. What are your intentions right now into what Matt Vincent's building, creating?
Right now with the mentorship group, man, I feel that thing. I know there's a group of folks that were similar to me, right? That came through athletics and a bar scene, but didn't quite fit in over here with I don't want to pick on it, right? But like say, like First Form. Yeah, I fucking love those guys, but it's a little bit cleaner version to stuff. I am into a bit more of the drug culture and fucking partying with bands and doing this other type of shit. I'm not that into fucking owning a sports car and like, I don't care to flex at all. And so like the self-improvement part of everything that's built within that culture, I super get, but I understand how that doesn't apply very well to these outcast guys that I was around through that time. These more artistic dudes that were playing music. Like they're never fucking going to go to LA Fitness. So there's got to be somewhere that's a home for them to realize the important part of managing this physical side of the being. And I look at that as that's an opportunity for me to reach those people because it may be too far for them to listen to Aubrey. Like it's too far down the road. It's too far removed to be like, sure thing. Whereas I'm a closer route to be like, well, he's still doing shit that we're into. Identify more with that. And as important as I found plant medicine and this other side of awareness and all that, if my shit's not together, the message isn't important. I can't share it. So me holding that to be able to continue to share more of that message of what's worked for me to help me deal with anxiety and deal with ADHD and all the tools I found, like that feels so fucking important. It feels so important to have people realize that the life in front of them is what matters and we can make progress toward it all the time. I can't tell you what success is, because if you don't have a definition of it, we're probably never going to get there. But if success is a feeling that you think's going to show up because you did X, it ain't coming. So we can chalk that off. So we better start looking in other places. Sharing that message, man, like sharing that and the identity behind the not dead yet thing of just wanting to see people make the most of their fucking lives and realize they can. That to me is kind of everything right now. And if that's me, I've got to show it and be it and speak it and walk the walk. And so I'll embody that life.
It's incredible, man.
Thank you, man. It's, yeah, like if I'm going to be serious that I think discomfort is a key to growth, then I got to lean into doing things that make me fucking uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. You know, I want to do them. There's always a resistance to wanting to do them and trying to let people know that, like, despite that I do all these things and I am motivated and I am consistent, I am fighting a fucking battle with this part of me that just wants to be a piece of shit and lay on the couch and say good enough. He wins some days, just not most. I let him win. That's why I'm not leaner than I am, because cookies are fucking great.
I love it, man.
And so, look, long-term 5-year plan, like what that looks like for me, I want him to have as many options to do what he wants to. And there's a couple things that build that. Freedom, managing my finances, and creating opportunity. So it's my job in the meantime to follow those. And what's always done that for me is better relationship building, better sharing information, and creating. So those 3 things are things I want to do with my life. I love the intention of making and giving and providing more than just fucking taking and eating and consuming. And that'll lead wherever it goes.
It's incredible, man. We're going to end on that note.
Okay.
That was, I think that was the message that needed to get out right there.
Yeah, man.
Cool. This has been great dropping in.
A joy.
Seeing your tribe here.
Let me get a couple things with you real quick, as we'll just chop it a little differently for my show.
Perfect.
Shark Tank.
Let's talk Shark Tank.
How the fuck? That's a fucking wild experience.
Very. It's
How do you get there? How intensive is it? Because I talked to Stan a little bit. Like, now that I weirdly know a couple of people that have been on Shark Tank.
It's so for us, they reached up out of the blue, 2021. They hit us up. And we were like, yeah,
Yes.
we're interested. It wasn't like, hey, you're coming on. It was like, hey, would you be interested in applying? And we were like, yes, we're interested in applying. I remember we were out at the CrossFit Games in 2021. We took like our whole staff out to the games. It was big throw our hat over the fence type moment for the company, you know, spent more than we probably had to do it, had more tubs out there than we were ready to do, like the whole thing. So we were out there and then Shark Tank summons, and we're like, and that's kind of in the story of Plunge. It's like every moment that we're a little like, shit, this is way bigger than where we're at. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Like, let's rip. We've signed leases on places that we're like, this is way too big for what we need. And we're like, it's going there. And then of course, as soon as we sign, we're like, shit, we need double this in 3 months. Like,
Jesus
it's been that rocket ship. And so anyways, they reached out, we applied, crazy application process. Longer application process than anything I've ever been through.
Yeah, they want everything, right? Like financials, just docs, like all these kind of. Yeah, because you can't come in and lie and be like, we run a $10 million company and we'd like to offer you 1%.
Totally. They want to make sure you're decent on camera. They're going through all this, like, you have to do all your pitches, and there's just a lot
like
of
send in videos.
yeah, you got to do videos, and there's like a lot of preparatory stuff. And then it just kind of happened. They're like, okay, we bought your tickets. You'll be down there this date. And we're like, oh shit, I guess we're going. We got selected. And then it's, you know, all the logistics. We had to get a tub down. Like our show was unique because we actually were getting a shark into the water. So they had to get the plunge set up and cold. So it was like a lot of logistics.
And one of them agreed to it.
Yep. So we had Robert get in. Have you seen the episode?
Yep.
Yeah. So Robert got into the water. It was actual authentic. Like the water was probably in the mid to low 50s. So it was like cold for a first timer. He freaked the fuck out. And then he calmed down. He was actually in for 2 minutes. Like that was real. He gave him a lot of credit. He settled his breath. He came out. He embraced it. He like didn't make a mockery of it, which I was a little, we didn't know. We didn't know what was going to happen here. Is this like, you know, they're just going to show us as some company that's kind of doing some new in vogue thing that's kind of a joke. And they all took it really seriously. And man, the experience was crazy, you know, for us, like Sony Studios, LA, have our own trailer with our name on it and psychologist on site. And, you know,
a psychologist on site?
Yeah. They have someone there, like mostly for the post-production, like post-showing, because some people bomb. And
and they lose their fucking mind.
Yeah, and so they have
that's their whole life just fucking melted in their hands.
Whole life. I mean, I remember signing the contract when you know, we get these docs to sign, and there was like 100 and something page doc or 80-page doc. It was something crazy. And I'm not reading it, but I remember
of course not.
I stop one time during it. Let's say it's page 46. I just stop. I'm like, what is this thing saying? And I just stop at one section. No joke. The one section I stop. It's like, I acknowledge that I might completely embarrass, like ruin my name. Like it was just this line of like
that if this ruins your business, we're not fucking
your life, your reputation. Like they used words like that. Like they clearly
this can ruin your life.
Yes.
Jesus
and I was like, I'm not reading any more of this. Like, and I just scrolled to the bottom and signed it and said, fuck it. And so, yeah, there's a psychologist on site.
Like if you all of a sudden came out and you're just like, tubs are great, not for women.
Exactly.
Like they're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
And you just go on this big long diatribe about some historical thing. Like they shouldn't even be allowed to run more than 400 meters at a time.
Coming out like that, or piss my pants, or just like totally go blank, like something like that, where it's like, and we, you know, it was funny. We have no clue. We were told after the show, you guys did great, da 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 da. And we're sitting here like, y'all gassing us. Like, what's great? Like, we thought we did great. We got a number of deals. Yes, that all sounds great. But like, truly, like, is this just what you guys do?
Yeah.
And we talked to the psychologist. He comes in our trailer after, and he was like, no, I clearly have two distinct conversations I have. And he's like,
this is a good one.
And then you're in the good one. And I have a bad one, and I have that a good amount, and it's very clear.
Because people want to see people eat it on there too.
I think the show's gotten better, to their credit or whatever, that they are less about someone just fucking up. They're genuinely there. If someone messes up, it's like it happened, and they weren't like, the sharks are less intense now.
Yeah.
They're more actually supporting the business.
Well, I think the audience for the show has changed. I think the audience for the show has changed a lot, from general public trying to be entertained to more people trying to do weird entrepreneurial shit, man. You got to see people win and get actual fucking good advice instead of sound bites.
That's exactly it. Like, it's truly passionate about business building, entrepreneurship, capitalism, like whatever you want to term it. Those are the people that are into the show. And I think the show has done, 13 years they've been running. The producers are really behind that message, into like supporting small businesses and growing businesses in the U.S.
How long has Dragon's Den been on then?
I don't know. That's
because it predates it by at least a season. So fuck.
Yeah, it might be 14, 15. But all the sharks. We go out. I mean, what's funny, I always have this funny story of kind of behind the scenes version. So how the show works is you put out, you come up with your offer. We had ours, which at the time was, I think we were $1 million for 5% of the company.
Okay.
So you have the money that you state, you have to hit. You can't take an offer lower than that dollar amount.
So someone has to pay you $1 million.
You have to get $1 million. Where the game becomes a game is the equity,
the percentage.
So it's like you need to be sound in your dollar amount. So it's sometimes some people give small dollar amounts and go really low equity.
Yeah.
Because it's like, cool.
There's so much room for us to negotiate.
Exactly. And so we, and I think our valuation was actually really fair for what we were doing at that moment. Like there it was. But
that puts you at like what, a 50?
It was a
$20
million valuation at what we were doing. There.
Bad
I mean, we were just coming off. If you looked at, I mean, I can get into the numbers. If you're looking at our last 3 months, we were just on a rise. And so we were, where it kind of became a negotiation with them is they were looking at us because we were only 12 months old. So they were like, well, your 12-month numbers aren't
They're not long term.
And we're like, but look at the last 3. You could see the growth that's happening. And so that was kind of the fun part of the show. But we're going out, and we had just come out, I think, on like our record day at that time. Like this is mid-September 2021. Mike and I are like, dude, why it's our company. This is equity you're actually having a conversation about. So I'm like, we're undervaluing our company. And so we have our producers of you have specific people with you that are kind of coaching us, and they've been with us along the way. So we're getting our makeup done. We're like supposed to go out in like 7 minutes. The set's going crazy. They're like finalizing our makeup on set. And all of a sudden we tell our guy like, hey, we're up in the valuation. And it's like 7 minutes before we go out. He's like freaking out. He's like, oh my God. It's like, okay, just we upped it to 1.2 million for 5%. So we changed the valuation to whatever it went up by, like to 25 million or whatever. 23, 22. And so
a number you quickly calculated on your iPhone backstage.
It was that morning at breakfast, and we were like doing some pencil numbers, and we're like, this is no, we have this.
Fuck yeah, though.
It was too low. We have to get it a little higher.
Right.
And so we felt 1.5 was maybe too shocking. 1.2 for some reason. I don't know. It was
sure.
So the guy's like, okay, when you go out there, then they're going to fucking hound you because this number is insane. This is really high for the show. They're like, so Ryan, once you say that number, shut your mouth. Like,
let them go.
They're just going to start yelling at you guys. They're going to say like, oh my God, I can't believe, of course. Like, sure, which they did. So that was like that's happening right before we go out. And then you go to the doors where it's like the actual infamous hallway, where it's like,
all the sharks.
Yeah. It's like, well, you're in the doors there. It's like when you're walking off the set, everyone's like walking through that hallway.
Yeah. With the fish tanks.
Yep, exactly. So we're there behind it. And it's this kind of very psychedelic moment. Like it's that
I bet.
Where it's just the world time's operating in the weirdest
what the fuck
paradigm.
am I seeing it from that perspective? Walking through your own eyes into that room is a fucking way different thing than watching it on TV.
It's like you've seen it 1,000 times. You've seen that set. You've. It's like what? And I've been prepping for it. There's so much practice that goes in, especially for that 2 minutes of your pitch, because that's your set lines. After that, everything opens up, and I was more comfortable with that because that's free flow. I'm just answering questions. I'm sharing my numbers. I know that shit. But like the actual pitch, that's like a skit. That's like you're performing.
A skit.
And so we get there, and it's just, we're in a huge set. It gets quiet, and it's eerie because it's loud. Like there are, 50 to 75 people there. And all of a sudden it's just like,
fuck,
quiet like this. Like it's just like
quiet.
And it's just one guy, the stage manager, that comes and stands in front of us, and he's like the guy he's just like the set shaman. He's just like there. He's on the headset ready to call in to the directors and let them know, and they're gonna give him the cue. And he's like, so how you guys doing? And we're just like standing there, and I'm just like, we're good. And I'm like nervous as fuck. Turn to Mike.
We're good.
I turned to Mike, and we just like, we hug each other, and we just say like, I love you, man. Like, and it's like, let's have fun. Yep. Like that's been our agreement in this whole journey. We're going to have fun doing this. I hugged him. We stood there, and I'm just like, it's like, it feels like the moment before you've taken, let's say, before I've drank a cup of ayahuasca, or you've eaten a huge dose of mushrooms, and it's about to kick, and you're like, I kind of feel it. Oh boy. The blast off's coming, and it's like, and you're in there. And all of a sudden I turned to Mike, and Mike's 6'6", tall, lanky guy. And he's just dancing, fucking going loose. Like, just like, get it in it. Like, I'm talking, we're on set. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, and I was just it was one of those like stoked moments. Like, yeah, of course he's getting loose. Like, he's just in it.
Yeah.
Come to find out, homie started to panic and forgot his complete lines. And he went in and was
no.
And Mike's not one to panic.
Oh, no.
He's like a calm guy. And he just was like, I don't know him. I don't know. They're gone. And he just was like, the only thing I thought to do was like, you just got to dance. Like, you're like, they're gone. Like, whatever this energy of fear is now, like, you just have to dance. So he's dancing.
Oh, no.
And then,
Jesus Christ.
And then he just stops. And all of a sudden, the guy says, go. And then they just open the doors and we walk out. And we ended up crushing our lines. Like, it all worked out. And it was, but I remember just turning to him and being like, what are you doing? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, here we go. No, he was in full ecstatic dance mode, like just loose and lit and just like letting it go. And I always say, like, if that, because there's a camera on us, there's a video of that happening behind the scenes of like the dance party going on, Shark Tank behind the scenes. So yeah, that then the show went down. Incredible, incredible experience of like just going out there, sharing the business. That was something we really wanted to connect to, of like just being proud of what we'd done, and like not, regardless of what came out or how we were portrayed, like, this is your moment. Like, it felt like, what it felt like to me, I would assume for you're at your world championships of the Highland Games. Like, you fucking trained for this.
Fucking right it is. It's the same feeling.
And it's, as an entrepreneur, it was that, like, dude, you fucking worked your ass off and lived this entrepreneurial life. It's still 6 to 7 years into this, but it's like, go and like let it rip, like let it shine. You deserve to be here, and like just go play full out. And we had an incredible showing. 4 offers from 4 different sharks. I think it ended up being, from the actual total number of top 3 or 5, like total cash amount, offered on the show. And funny experience that it didn't make the cut, because we're actually out there for like 40 minutes with them, 45 minutes. And then our show was 6 minutes. So it's like, how like the cut behind the scene, the story they want to tell.
Your whole part was 6 minutes on
6 minutes. And they cut right to negotiation in our talk, where there was so much of the story of our journey of launching through COVID and the business is shutting down was what it was. They didn't bring that part of the story in. They wanted... We had good sales numbers. Let's share their sales numbers. These guys are asking for this amount. Let's turn it into the negotiation. But within the negotiation, there was parts where they're throwing out deals, and it's getting to the spot of like, I don't know what they're saying. Like, I don't understand the deal.
Well, there's so much money being yelled at me.
And it's all like, and you can't like be like, it's just happening in real time. And there's this fear of like, dude, this is my company. I'm literally negotiating, like, not a loan deal even. This is equity that we're discussing right now. This is like
you're going into bed.
Yeah, exactly. This is marriage that I'm discussing on the spot right now. And, there's deals being thrown out. And I felt like it was this chess game of like, dude, how are you going to get at it? Like, you're in it now. Like, the deals are coming. Either...
No, it's easier if only one of them makes an offer.
Exactly. And it turned into 4, and they're going at it, and they're kind of deals we don't want. So I don't want to be the asshole that like is the guy that turns down deals on the show, because that's a whole like stigma, like, oh, they came on the show for this reason. So there was a moment where I was like, can we stop, and can Mike and I go talk? And I was like, so I was hoping Mike was following this too. I was hoping we were going to have a moment to kind of like converse. And I was like, he was like, the first thing he says to me is like, I don't know what they're saying. And I'm sitting there like, shit, I don't either. Like,
well, like the stage manager or anyone come fucking translate?
Exactly. I was like, okay. And as soon as he said that, I was like, all right. It felt like this, like, we got to get out of this one.
Holy
like
fuck.
How we, like, what is it? Oh, brother, where art thou? Where he's always like, oh, we're in a pickle.
We're in a pickle.
And it was like, okay, here we go. We got to get out of this one. So then the offers are coming in, and it was finally like, Robert went to the threshold that Mike and I that morning said we would go to that number. And as soon as he said it, I was like, you got it. Like,
fuck it, we're out. yeah. This makes sense.
Get out.
It's the first word I've understood in the last 30 minutes.
Exactly. I felt like I was the most exhausted I had ever been, which they told us before. They're like, if you come
You're
out.
fucked after that.
Yes. If you don't come out exhausted and like delirious, you did this wrong.
Yo, the CNS is shot.
What's CNS?
Central nervous system.
Oh, done.
Yo, your adrenaline is fucking too spiked. You've dealt with too much information. It's bright lights. It's a fucking totally different environment. You're fucked.
I'd never been in that environment before. I'm sure you've been in it. It started to wear off. The adrenaline hit so hard. I was so hyper present and equally blacked out during moments of it. And then there was towards the end, I was like, oh, the trip is ending and I'm still out here and I don't have any reserves. Like, and that's when I was like, we got to get off this stage because I don't know what's happening and the camera's still running. And this is where this could get really weird. And to that reputation or whatever we had built as a company, like, could get really funny. Or we could agree to something that's
know when the party's done and get the fuck out of here with the money.
And I said it. We're like, gave him a hug. We're like, we're out. And then they tried to do interviews after, and I couldn't even speak. They didn't use any of those interviews of me talking. Like, the guy was like, Ryan, just say this. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, it was gone. I was twisted. Gave everything I had an incredible journey, and then we were out. Got our psychologist to come talk to us. He said we did good. We felt good, and we were.
But dude, what's the confidence boost on the backside of that? Not because they agreed, right? Like, whatever that means business wise. You perform under that stress. Like, what's the chances that you're going to run into a second thing that gnarly?
It goes to your whole thesis of, like, putting yourself under very stressful situations. And I think my goal is that there will be something that gnarly or
for sure
greater, and that's the training for the next thing.
It may not be a speaking event, right? Like, because I recently spoke at an event in Salt Lake City, and like maybe 250 people in a room, super intimate. And like, I'm aware that I'm getting to speak because of some of my relationships with the other speakers. They think I'm rad and valuable and want to share me with their audience. So like, going into a speaking thing like that, like, they don't fucking know anything about me. Like, I'm an open micer now trying to win a room. And so like, the level of anxiety and stuff getting ready to start it
totally
is fully like,
you can't hang your hat on your past.
No
or
way,
like,
man. It's the first thing that I felt that I was like, this is the same as competing. I was like, this requires the same amount of me have my shit together as competing does. Cause like, standing there getting ready to go on stage, like, get your fucking breath.
Yep.
Like, use that tool, asshole.
Yep. Cause your win last week doesn't matter in this game.
Doesn't fucking matter.
Yep. It's a thing. And I think that's, it's, you rise to that occasion. I think it's being very present. It's it's presence. It's bringing in that moment, meeting that moment.
That may be selling your company. That may be the next thing that requires that much from you. That like every tool we've ever gathered on the way here, like, we need it for this boss battle.
Mm-hmm. And I bring it, like I said, ayahuasca is kind of like the plant medicine that I really use intentionally. And that is like one of my hardest environments to go into. But I sat recently and I was thinking of Shark Tank before ceremony, because I get very nervous before ceremony. It's like, it's going to take a high level of focus and commitment. And, my mind wants to be, I'm tired, I'm scared, I don't want to do this. And it's like, no, you need to give everything you have and go into this and face this. And Shark Tank is what came up right at that time of like, no, that's why you did that. You were scared and you still walked out there and you performed and you talked and you shared what you had to do. This is going to be no different right now. And I think it's just meeting those moments of when it's the moment calls and it's like, you can't squirm out of it. There's no,
but
which
also,
I think they're special. You need, like, those are.
But also, Shark Tank's not your first one, right? Like, it's a long list of moments that have required that from you.
Totally. It's exactly. And and to be there of playing, and sometimes they don't go great. And that's okay too, and like, learn from it but get back on the saddle and show back up to the next moment. And I think it goes back to you talking about earlier. It's like, it's never as bad like, if it all goes to shit, it's never as bad as you think. Like, whatever you're afraid of in that moment, like, you're gonna, like, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. That's gonna happen. Shark Tank. Man, if you said the silliest fucking thing, or they cut this thing in a way that's outside of your control, whatever, man. Like, you're going to go do something great again that won't define you anymore. Like, I look at, like, I don't know, someone I always think of as like George Washington. No one knows of this guy. So hear me out on this one. GW.
Man, I don't know what names I had planning on coming up, but George Washington was not on the short list.
So he was a laughingstock, a U.S. national laughingstock. Not many people know about this. In the 7 Years' War, French and Indian War, whatever you want to call it, he was English commander, had lost a battle, and it was like a mockery. He was like kicked out of the English military. He was sung as a joke in the colonies. He was done, probably was never going to be in the military again. And it was almost Like, you read books about it, it was like an insurmountable thing that he would ever overcome.
Okay.
Well, no one knows that even happened.
Right. Right.
He is the first commander. He is the hero of our country. He, in so many ways of what he did. First president.
How about the idea that there's some weird chance that you could have your face on currency after you're dead?
100%. Like, whatever that is, into what he's remembered for is in that vein. And so I think of that. Ulysses S. Grant, a big history guy. These people that were fuck-ups. And they were known nationally as fuck-ups. And then they become heroes. They meet a new moment in time. And I think we all get those moments in life where we could either succumb to it and become the failure. Life is going to present you some new dragon to slay, and you get to go slay it. Like, that's just how it's pretty cool. Like, no moment defines us. And so I bring that into, Shark Tank. I was thinking that very much before. Like, dude, if you go out there and you flop, cool, that's part of your story, and then you get to go be the guy that overcomes that.
And what a fucking incredible perspective it is that eliminates the failure as a negative, right? It's your perception on that failure that's the big difference. I think if like I can make an agreement, right, that my perception on a situation is in fact my reality of it, then the better I can control my perception allows me to control the reality I'm in. And I can believe that is of abundance and that this is an opportunity. And even through the failure, I can see, fuck, I learned X, Y, and Z. And how do I apply that to slay the next dragon? Because in the hero's journey, there's always a fucking dragon that's got to be slayed. And so I think a lot of time we all just want it to be like there's one dragon that is slayed and then the story's over.
Totally.
Right? But you don't catch the hero's full story. You don't see childhood to death. And there's always dragons to slay. And if you want to continue with progress and continuing to find more of you, the dragons are in deeper, darker, bigger caves. They always will be. And so, man, being able to test yourself and show up for those things, that hero's journey, like, that's the story. Like, that's the one to tell about yourself instead of stopping halfway through, or that fear of the failure that eliminates action. Or the fucking failure avoidance stuff of like, well, if I don't really try, then when I fail, it's not that big a deal.
Totally. And I think it's the quicker you we're all playing that game to some level. Like, we're all, as much as I'd like to think I'm chasing all my discomforts and there's shit that I'm not seeing right now I'm playing that game. But it's just, it's a part of, that's the journey, like bringing the awareness to it. And then you get to like level up. And I think we all have it. It's like, it's not about just going on Shark Tank. It's about, like, we all have these micro forms of adversity that we're facing like all the time, and like how we build it. And then we get these cool big moments that are the Highland Game Championships. That is the Shark Tank, where it was 1,000 other events that are not even discussed. No one even knows you went through, but those were all a part of that process to even give you the confidence.
Yeah. But those moments didn't find you. You found them. Like, that's the difference, right? You're not fucking waiting for it to show up. You've been taking action the whole time to get to an opportunity. Be like, oh, you're so lucky with Shark Tank. Fuck you, lucky. Fucking luck.
The more you put into action, the more luck perpetuates. Like,
seems to.
Your odds of luck increase.
Yeah, and your odds of being able to fucking hit the home run when someone accidentally lobs one across the plate occasionally.
Totally. Your odds, yes, we got lucky. But we played the odds. You play the...
there's people that say no. Can you fucking imagine? There's people that get that call and they're like, there's no way there's 100% success rate of like people that they have reached out to and they all said yes.
Yeah. I feel for that. I feel for that person that...
Me too.
Is
terrified.
Lets those moments go.
Terrified. Maybe in some realm it is a good decision. I don't know. But
I think it's a decision. If you're I think any decision's fine as long as you're at peace with it. Like, I don't know. Maybe sit. I don't know. Maybe I see monks that sit in a cave and they live that life, and that's their life. I've chosen not to go sit in the cave. I'm grateful for them doing it. They're playing their part in whatever this existence is. But as long as you're at peace with whatever decisions we're making, I think you're fine. Like, you don't have to live a life any certain specific way.
No, I don't think there's any rules to it, especially at this point.
Yeah.
The fact that any of this works and how many countless people I've now seen do things that should be impossible. I gotta quit pretending impossible shit can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it can be done, then let's take a shot at some stuff.
Totally. And like you said, you want to be there for the calling of people that are like ready, like these events that you're doing. It's like, yeah, I could view people and judge their life and be like, oh, I wish they should be doing more. They should be doing it different. It's like,
there's a switch that flips when people realize that they've actually been at the wheel the whole time.
yeah,
That the excuses aren't valid, that none of it matters. It's only up to you.
and it's my viewpoint of their life doesn't really matter. You
Not
know,
a fucking bit.
sometimes it gets through and but it usually doesn't work that way. It's just supporting someone. So what I'm getting at is like,
If I'm operating on a planet full of people that feel about their lives the way I feel about mine, I'd like to be on that planet.
fuck yeah, I get that.
That's it. That's it. The simplest fucking form.
Yep.
That's a place I want to exist with.
Yep. And that's a message we're sharing.
Yeah.
Get
Dude,
that.
real quick, another one is in your entrepreneurial journey or anything living up to it. Like, did you always have a hustle?
No. I'm trying to think like what. I always was really good at seeing the system and how to like kind of navigate systems. Like,
Okay.
let's say like public school. Like I knew what I needed to do to be in the good graces of the school. And I
Sounds
lived
familiar.
my fucking life how I wanted to. Like, I was
Smile and nod, do whatever you wanted to anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I was out partying, my family. I knew what I needed. I knew what my mom and dad wanted. And as long as I met those needs, I went and lived the life how I wanted to live, and probably wasn't what they were stoked about.
Maybe not.
But I think that's been important for me. I think I have this dynamic. I think it's kind of a crux because it goes both ways. I don't like being told what to do. So that doesn't bode well for having a boss and kind of having, and on the flip side, I love being told what to do when there's clear direction, if that makes sense.
If I just have to act.
Yes. And
Oh,
someone's
man.
giving me clarity into like, hey, like I love having a trainer that I just am like, he's like, do this. Like, or a nutritionist. It's like, Ryan, for your body, eat these things. It's like, those are things that are like really, I like that regard. But to the question of entrepreneur, no, I wasn't, that's never really been my thing of like, I just am, it's always been like, well, who else is going to do it?
Sure.
Like, that's kind of been it. The float center was like, dude, you got to do that. Like, there's no float center for you to do this at in Sacramento. Like, you got to do it.
What got you into floating?
I had a bad accident in Thailand and almost died in a motorbike accident out there.
Holy fuck.
And came back, was in the hospital about 2-3 weeks, came back, went through a recovery, started floating. So two things. I had decided in that hospital bed, kind of having this realization in life, I am going to go to the jungles. This is in 2012. This happened, 2013, beginning of 2013. I'm going to go to the jungles to drink ayahuasca. So this is like
So in Thailand?
I was in Thailand, but I had been wanting to drink ayahuasca.
Okay.
So I had this accident happen. I'm in the hospital bed. I'm, almost died
In Thailand.
in Thailand,
In a fucking hospital in
Thailand.
God damn.
And
Okay.
had surgeries out there, the whole thing. So two things I said. So you asked why I got into floating. I wanted to, decided I'm going to the jungle. What the fuck you waiting for in life? Same premise of your life. Like, it was very
Almost
much
died.
shook me up. Like, dude, even though I was living life happily and pursuing things I liked, there was another level. It was, why are you talking about doing that? So anyways, that was happening. So I came back and I was like, dude, you're going to go to the jungle in a year. You need to start prepping your mind and body. Like, what is that? What's the best place? I've heard about these float tanks. So I started to get into a float tank, and that was a journey for me from a mostly spiritual end and kind of personal development of like, let's go spend some time there. Very quickly, second float in, I remember sitting in the waiting room in San Francisco where I lived, little like grungy basement joint. That was like kind of fringe society, which was very new to me. And I remember just sitting in the waiting room and I was just like seeing pretty normal people walking in, walking out. And I was like, why this is where I want to be. I just want to sit in this chair all day. That was all I thought. It was like, if I could sit in this chair and just watch people come in and out of a float tank, my life would be, I would be stoked. I don't even care how much money I make.
Yeah.
That was the premise of the whole thing. And so that thought was like very much in the first entrepreneurial, like real thing.
So what was it about watching other people do it?
It was a whole new world to me. So I thought floating was so different. I thought it was, no one in my circle was getting in float tanks or doing this stuff. And so I went, and I'm in this little waiting room, and I'm just seeing people that it's like I found my tribe.
Oh, so your face got blown off.
Yeah, like I'm like seeing, like I had floated a couple times. I'm like, this is fucking cool. Like, it's fun. It's interesting to me. I'm getting a lot out of it. And then I'm just seeing other people do it. And I'm just like, all their stories were starting to get interesting to me. I wasn't, not that I was really talking to them, but I was just like, how did you find this? Like, my life feels very accelerated right now. Like, you've been in this. Like, what have you been doing? Like, what do you do in life? And so that's when I was like, dude, if I just worked at the front desk, like, of my own, and it was literally this whisper I call it a whisper, and it came in my ear, and it was just like, go create it. Like, and that was a very radical thought to me. I wasn't one to be like, I'm going to go do it. And that was like the first of this journey for me to be like, well, if you're not going to do it, who is? Like, create it. Like, you can build one of these.
You can figure it out.
You can build one. You can be the builder of your own facility. You don't have to come get a job here. And, that was very early in floating. Kind of sat on that for about a year as I was getting ready to go to the jungle. I was in a job that I really enjoyed, worked in professional soccer. And I, thought I was going to go to the jungles, and it was going to be like, quit your job, go start a float center. And it was super quick. It's just not how it works, know?
That's
it
not
was
how
like,
it works.
Let that go. Let's stop worrying. We got way deeper work to be doing here. And, so that was just part of the process of coming out of the jungle, just to fully it was the first time I had actually felt like a spiritual being. And that was like a big breakthrough for me. And just like a very clear mind and clear kind of direction in my life, and just comfortability with my life in a very healthy way. Came back, I got a promotion at my other job, which was great. And I got mentored by some really key people in business. And then about 7 months later, I remember waking up one morning and was like, oh my God, I got to start a float center. And it started that morning. I just built the business plan. I quit my job a few months later, moved to Sacramento, had no money, still hadn't even raised money. I think one buddy had said, I'll give you $15,000. I needed to raise, at least $250 to get this thing open at the time. And I just,
when you have no money, it's so much money.
It's
so much money, period. It ain't like I'm fucking around with $250,000 I'm tossing around, but like, that's a fucking, like, I opened my bike shop with 50, like, tops.
And that's like probably everything you had.
Yeah, it's everything I could get my hands on.
Yes, exactly. It's like, and that's what was crazy. It's like going through that process of, the lessons I've learned in this is like, you just kind of got to figure it out. Like, it's never going to be perfect. Like, it was always like, and then I was thinking like, okay, I need to have $250,000 in the bank
before day one.
And then I start, and it's like, no, bro, it doesn't work that way. You got to get that lease signed. Oh shit, you only have like $50,000, but I got to sign that lease, and I still am on the hook for finding that other money. Well, I'm going to sign that lease. Gets a little more, as it gets more momentum and it gets a little more real, more and more people want to buy in. And so it's like,
no shit. All right.
So that's the thing that throw your hat over the fence, but be committed. That's the key thing. Don't be trying to prove some shit to yourself, or like
people also stop and help people that are pushing cars.
Totally.
They don't fucking get out and help some of them standing on the side of the road with a thumb in their ass.
That's exactly it, man. And be clear in the vision, and be accountable to it, and take it with responsibility, but like move with pace, and take actions that declare to the world and the universe, whatever you want to call it, like, I'm fucking here to play. And shit gets even more real. It could get scary. It's like, woo, this is real. Like, I remember,
make decisions fast and be able to pivot quickly.
Exactly.
That was incorrect. Let's move back this way.
100%. I remember being in meetings where I brought a big investor in. We were at this big architecture firm, and I was just like, whoa. It was like one of those surreal moments. Like, these people are talking about this company. Like, how the fuck did we get here? And it's this ain't going. Like, you can't back out. Like, okay. And then it was like back in. Like, so it's, I think, anyways, that was the journey there. And then we kind of 5 more years, opened up the second one. Same Haley was very similar, we were talking about earlier. where she had the audacity to be like, I want to do this. We did it. And
Let's see it.
And then plunge. Met Mike. Mike, very nice, similar stories. He went to Peru, worked with ayahuasca, opened a Reboot a year before me. Walked in one day and 2 weeks into his opening, I was like, hey, I'm Ryan. I'm going to start a float center. And he was like, cool, let me support you. So we became real good buds through that. And then rest is history. And
yeah, I fucking love it, dude. I love it, man. Yeah, shit like that fires me up. You never know the route it's going to go. Like, you can't predict the story at all, especially once you got locked into an intention and then followed it just consistently taking fucking action the whole time. Yo, it's unstoppable.
mm-hmm.
And realizing that you can figure it out, and like all those tools are in you. If not, you can find them.
Totally. I think that's the key. And like understanding what timelines are different than what you envision.
They're not. They're based on nothing.
They're based on nothing, and they're based off of some overinflated view of yourself or underinflated view of yourself, and it's one or the other, and the timeline is going to play as the timeline plays.
Yeah, man. Brother, I can't thank you enough. At some other point, we'll talk again, dude. This has been great. I like hanging out. I want to know why we were in Thailand. I like people that seem to adventure. And so, bit drawn in. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise,
Thanks for
brother.
coming to play around in my spaceship.
This is great. Thanks for showing it, man.
Yeah.
Your space is awesome.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers.
Or whenever. So.